The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power star Morfydd Clark discussed Galadriel's Season 3 journey following her intense fight with Sauron in the Season 2 finale. Clark plays a much different version of Galadriel compared to what was seen in the Lord of the Rings movies. Since The Rings of Power takes place thousands of years before the events of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Clark's version of Galadriel is much darker. Throughout the first 2 seasons of The Rings of Power, Galadriel was even tempted by Sauron multiple times. At the end of The Rings of Power Season 2, Galadriel jumped off a cliff during her fight with Sauron to escape the Dark Lord. In an interview with Screen Rant, Clark claimed that jumping off the cliff meant that Galadriel is ready to let go of her connection to Sauron. Therefore, she claimed that the version of Galadriel fans will see in The Rings of Power Season 3 will be much closer to the caring and hopeful Galadriel seen in the Lord of the Rings movies. Read Clark's full comment below. What Morfydd Clark's comments mean for Galadriel in The Rings of Power Season 3. The Rings of Power Season 3 will feature a new version of Galadriel. Galadriel got injured during her fight with Sauron at the end of The Rings of Power Season 2, but she still managed to escape the Dark Lord and was eventually brought back to Rivendell. This is important for Season 3 of The Rings of Power, since Rivendell will become a prominent stronghold for Galadriel and other elves. As the ending of Season 2 chronicled the fall of Eregion, Rivendell will likely be an important location in The Rings of Power Season 3, and act as a safe place where Galadriel and the elves can plan their ongoing feud with Sauron. Since she has been so rebellious throughout the first 2 seasons of the show, many of the other Rings of Power characters haven't fully trusted Galadriel. However, Clark's comments suggest that Galadriel will be much more united with the other elves in Season 3. While Galadriel has been shown to be slightly vulnerable to Sauron's powers so far in The Rings of Power, Clark teased that Season 3 will start a new chapter in Galadriel's life, one in which she will be untouchable. Our take on Galadriel's character arc in The Rings of Power Season 3. Clark's version of Galadriel has always been controversial. Charlie Vickers as Anatar Sauron and Morfydd Clark as Galadriel in The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power Season 2. One of the main complaints about The Rings of Power since its very first episode has been the characterization of Galadriel. Many fans have complained that Galadriel has been way too dark and brooding in The Rings of Power. However, characters cannot be static, so it is understandable why Galadriel was in a more vulnerable place throughout the first 2 seasons of The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. Hopefully, the controversial writing of the series so far will pay off in The Rings of Power Season 3 by showing a new version of Galadriel.